Hi, friends. I'm Emily. I'm an alcoholic. I hope everyone can hear me okay. I apologize. I'm in my car, but I was just at a meeting and didn't have time to go home. But I said something like, you never say no to service. So I wasn't able to say no to the meeting I chair or saying no to speaking tonight. But thank you so much, Anthony, for asking me to speak. It's crazy how you meet people at different AA events and they stick around and you know people all over the place. It's the beautiful thing that AA allows me to do. It's crazy. But yeah, I'm going to share a little bit about what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. What it was like for me, I like to share a little bit about growing up because I think early on I knew pretty quickly that I was pretty different from everyone around me. I grew up with three older siblings and they were all doing great. They were all doing fine. And I was black sheep of the family. And I feel like my childhood is a montage of my parents being like, what are you doing? What is going on? Like, why are you acting out again? I would just get into like any mischief there was. If there was mischief, I would find it and I would involve myself in it and I would try to hide it. I would try to pretend it wasn't happening. And with all of that definitely came a lot of emotions. And I think that I don't know how to deal with my emotions. So growing up just was always seeking out and not knowing what to do with it, not knowing what to do with myself. I've always had this feeling like I needed to fix myself because I was so different and because I never really fit in. I never really had a set group of friends. And that's how life was for me. And it brought a lot of anxiety and a lot of scary feelings at a pretty young age. All of those feelings, thankfully, I found drinking. I don't really remember exactly. I feel like everyone remembers their first drink, but I definitely do not. I remember that I was excited and I was like, this helps me. I know that this helps me. And I feel like I'm being fixed when I'm drinking because I was looking for something to help make me not feel all of those feelings that came along with just being different. I don't even love talking about my drinking anymore. I just want to talk about what it's like now. But I did love drinking. It became my solution very quickly. I think I learned that once I knew what drinking was, I didn't want to not do it. Any occasion where I could get away with it, because I was probably like 13, I was going to be drinking. And I realized that my friends didn't like to drink as much as I did. So I started drinking alone. I was end of middle school, drinking alone in my house and just drinking my parents' liquor because I was so young and definitely like destroying my body. That just slowly progressed. I guess if I'm drinking alone at 13, that's a pretty quick progression, but I drank all throughout high school and I had a group of friends. I would always hang out with them and they started drinking more, so I felt like I was fitting in a little bit more. Everything felt okay. And then I got in a little bit of trouble with my drinking in high school, but I always needed to cover it up. Basically, like my relationships revolved around making people like me enough so that they'll drink with me, but I wouldn't let them see the full me because I was honestly, I think, scared of myself. I had this anxiety that I didn't know what to do with it. I tried seeing therapists, I had tried different medications, but always just something wasn't sitting right with me at all times. A pretty shitty existence, honestly. That's why I don't really like talking about it, but important for identification, I guess. I went away to college. I chose a school purely off of the fact that I knew a girl that had gone to the school and she was drinking a lot of the time. That's how I chose where I was going to go to college. And I also based it off of the fact that it was a Catholic school and that my parents would allow me to go there because it was a Catholic school. My transition from high school to college, I did things that I never expected myself to do because my drinking had gotten so bad that I knew I couldn't control it, but I couldn't not drink because of the feelings that were just always festering inside of me. A couple things from high school. I remember me and my friends were all really looking forward to this concert we were going to together, and I puked on the bouncer and we couldn't go in, and I cost all my friends $200 each. I was lost in the city and my parents didn't know where I was, and I was just terrifying them because they didn't know what was going on with me. I just always ended up in these really bad situations. It got even worse when I went to that college. I did all the same things, except I was doing them more frequently now. I was ending up in places that I really, really shouldn't have been in. I was 19 at the time, and I would wake up in alleyways, not knowing where all my stuff was. I was definitely taking advantage of my friends. I finished my fourth step today also, so all this stuff is very fresh in my mind. I became a person that I did not like, and it turned into a really scary cycle of I need to drink, but I know I'm not a good person when I drink, but I also feel better when I drink, but I also know that I want friends and I want to be happy. So I was in the cycle of what am I supposed to do? The only thing that I saw or thought was helping me was drinking. I picked up a few other things along my way because sometimes drinking wasn't always the easiest to do, even though I usually made it work most days of the week. Everything that could have been going well in my life, I slowly destroyed. My friend group, I did the same exact thing I did in high school. I cheated on someone and then somehow blamed it on all of my best friends. And I remember leaving high school with so much shame and being like, I can't believe I did that. Like, I can never do that again. But I did the same exact thing again because of this spiritual malady that I have, this hole in my soul that can only be filled with drinking and things that make me feel good from other people, all of these external things. But basically, I got into a good amount of trouble at that school. They had a very strict code with drinking, and I fought the school on it. I was like, this is what people do. I took a medical leave of absence, all of that fun stuff. My parents had me sign a contract. They were trying to get me on the right path, but they didn't know what was happening. They didn't know that it could be alcoholism. I was sent to the hospital a couple of times because I was blacked out, and people found me blacked out and were like, you're not okay. And there were many times where I woke up and was like, I can't believe I'm alive right now. And it reached the point where I was severely underweight and I didn't like myself to the point where I was scared that I was going to kill myself. Really dark times, and I still didn't know what to do about it. Because I got into trouble with school, I was sent to the school therapist who recommended an outpatient near my house at home in New York. I went home, I did the same thing I do every night. I drank till I blacked out. I caused a lot of chaos. And I woke up and my mom was like, I can't do this anymore. And I said, me neither. I can't do this anymore. And I called this outpatient and I was crying, still drunk. And I was like, can you help me? I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do because I was genuinely so lost. My recovery journey. I always love talking about this. It is such a beautiful thing, and I am at such a confusing but cool part of my sobriety right now that I like talking about it. I think it reminds me that there is so much hope in this program because I reached the point where I wanted to kill myself. But yeah, I started off in outpatient and they required us to go to some meetings. And I was really scared of meetings. I had a lot of anxiety. They required us to, and I was very much people pleaser. I needed people to like me. So I showed up to these meetings. And honestly, my first couple of meetings, I had a really hard time relating to other people because I was going to a lot of meetings with older men or like guys that have been to jail and people who didn't look like me. And I was also just judging a lot of people. Once I was listening to people, I realized that I have all of the same things in common with most of the people in the rooms. And I finally started listening to people in meetings. And I remember someone in my outpatient was explaining to me and my dad what alcoholism was and that it can happen to literally anyone. That honestly came as a surprise to me and my dad because we knew nothing about alcoholism or AA. And I found out at that time that alcoholism runs in my family. That would have been nice to know. On both sides of my family, not my parents, but it's definitely in my genes, I believe, and learning about what alcoholism can look like and that it can look like exactly what was happening to me. I was so lost. I just kept saying, I can't do this anymore, but I also can't not do this anymore, and I need something to replace it because my feelings are too much for me to handle, basically. I went to a bunch of meetings. I made some friends in my outpatient. I'm still friends with, I think, only one of them, honestly, which is kind of sad. I hope the other ones are doing okay. Anyways, I met a woman. I'm originally from New York, so I met a woman in New York and I asked her to be my sponsor. And she took me through the 12 steps. And the 12 steps are a beautiful thing. I definitely had a lot of questions. I definitely didn't understand that reading and writing stuff down and sharing it with another person and praying, I didn't think that would fix or help what was going on with me. I definitely questioned it a lot, but hearing other people sharing that they felt the same way I felt, that they did the same things I did, that they had that same experience of, I can't believe I did this again, and I don't want to do this to myself anymore. Hearing that and then seeing them have real successful interacting with other people's lives, that gave me so much hope. Yeah, I started working with this woman and I started seeing what was going on the inside rather than blaming everyone around me, rather than blaming it on my anxiety and thinking that there's no way I could be an alcoholic because I'm a 19-year-old girl. Like, it doesn't make sense. It started making a lot of sense and it started becoming too real that I couldn't avoid it. So I found out that I'm selfish and that I'm self-seeking and that I'm really dishonest and that I do these things in order to protect myself. And I realized that that's not the person I want to be. That's not the person I actually am. It's just that my alcoholism makes me do those things. And I made some amends. I tried to make it right to the people that I hurt along the way, because there were definitely a lot of people that I hurt and I really didn't want to. And that brought up a lot of shame and that stuff that still comes up a little bit today. AA has brought me so many beautiful things. Most of the things in my life are directly because of AA. I have beautiful friends in New York, and I moved to San Antonio, Texas about 4 or 5 months ago, and I moved here and I felt comfortable moving here because I knew I would have a fellowship of people in AA that were going to support me. And I started grad school here, and initially when I was trying to get sober, I wasn't in school. I was freaking out. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I found out what I wanted to do. I have the most beautiful friends. I know random people like Anthony in New Jersey who are amazing. I have a relationship with my parents today. My parents don't have to write a contract with me today so that I'm not going to destroy my life. I'm responsible, which sounds weird saying, but I also am confident enough saying that I am these things because AA has taught me that I am not a shitty person. I think that's coming up a lot in my fourth step now. When I moved, I decided to do my steps again. I think I look back at some of the things I did when I was drinking, and I still think I'm a shitty person. AA has continuously showed me that you can recover, you don't have to drink, and you can bring God into any situation and you'll be all right. Through doing the steps, I realized that I needed something to replace the drinking because talking about my feelings wasn't going to help. And I realized that I always kind of struggled with the idea of God because I grew up in a religious household, but it made a lot of sense, all of the things that I was realizing about myself. I realized that there's this God within myself that works through other people, and I see through other people, and I can see in the deer running around my car right now. Like, I can find God in anything, and that can give me clarity to know what's right and what's wrong, or what's good and what I need to do and what I want to do. God can be super confusing, but it's also a beautiful thing, and it brings a lot of comfort to my life today. Like I said, I was talking a lot about anxiety before, and no therapy could have diminished my anxiety. I find myself a lot just asking God to remove any fear that I have, no matter what it is. Like when my phone just overheated, I was freaking out, and I was like, God, just let my phone cool off for a second, and we'll hop right back on. But yeah, AA has brought so many things into my life that I didn't know were possible. I think especially the idea of God, and especially feeling comfortable, because I thought my life was going to continue as this anxiety-provoking, chaotic mess that would just be a terrible cycle. But I really do love my life today, and I love all the people in AA. I can't believe there's so many people in this meeting. It's beautiful, but I'm glad that AA is always going to exist, and AA is always going to be giving, and I need to continue to give to AA. It's a beautiful thing. So I'm going to shut up. Thanks for letting me share.